Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain today. We're doing something a little different. We're living out here in the country, and we've kind of had more power outages and kind of interruptions on things that have affected our ability to sometimes have enough water. So we've always had to kind of store some water aside in case, we have a temporary power outage. A couple of years ago, we had a forest fire that was fairly close to us. Luckily, it never got to the point where we had to evacuate, but
we had to be prepared.
But they definitely had turned, because of high winds at the time, they had turned the power grid off in our area for about, at least 48 hours. Maybe it was a little longer than that. And some of the things that we've thought about, a way of keeping our healthy water to drink around us, besides just having bottled water on hand, or to store water from, pump it from the well, put it in some kind of storage container like a 30-gallon drum or a glass, big glass carboy of some kind or another, is we wanted to have some ability to filter our water too, because particularly we've kind of looked at it and said, well, if worse came to worse, particularly sometimes of the year, you can have rainfall. You could capture rainwater if you needed to do it and use it. Or just in general, the longer you store water, even though it's in a nice, container and it's food grade and all that kind of stuff, over time you can get bacteria or other things that may get in that kind of overwhelm the disinfectants you used in the water to keep it, safe as possible. So we wanted to kind of take the next step and create a simple water purification thing that you could use for emergency purposes, or you could even use it for camping purposes too. The idea would be, if you were camping someplace where there's a stream, but the water is good, but you never know what's upstream, you can use this kind of thing that we're talking about today to actually, use it for your campsite to have clean drinking water. So what we're going to be making is our own do-it-yourself home version of what's called a Berkey water filter. Now, Berkey is a filtration company that makes water purification filters of all various kinds, some to take out fluorides, some to take out, in this case, the filter we're using is their black filter. It removes most common waterborne bacterias, E. coli. They have a whole long list of things that it successfully takes out. And each one of these filters can do, during its life, about 3,000 gallons of water. So that's quite a bit of water. And it removes also a lot of chemicals, pesticide residues, herbicide residues. It does a pretty good job of also too taking things out of the water that would be heavy metals, aluminum or barium, or all kinds of things. It's basically a very efficient gravity-fed filtration system. So this isn't something that requires you to plug it in. It's just basically water that surrounds the filter will flow through the filter, be purified out, and come out the bottom into another container. So it's not as fast as, if you turned on your water purification, but this system doesn't require any electricity, and it doesn't require anything more than, just keeping your filter, the outside of the filter, clean from any residue buildup. So there's a couple ways you could go. Berkey sells complete systems, from very small systems, that do maybe a gallon or so, in terms of its filtration, or even less. And then they have a very large system that can do several gallons of water. But the one thing about it, they're very nice systems, and they're stainless steel, and they're really sweet systems, but they're also quite expensive. Ultimately, in the end, the most expensive part of the whole system is the filter itself. To get a 2-filter replacement, it's about $170. But when you buy a complete Berkey system, it can cost you several $100, $300-$400, or in some cases, depending if you're taking out extra stuff out of it, even more. Some people want to remove fluorides and things of that nature, and there's special filters they have to do that. So we found on the internet, there's always, YouTube University, there's always great people out there that have come up with workarounds. And this one is using food grade buckets and the basic Berkey system and some easy parts that you can get either, at a home center or a hardware store, or you can even buy them from Berkey yourself. They're not that expensive. And the basics of what we're going to be doing is taking these food grade 5-gallon buckets, and we're going to be using 2 of them, and it's going to be a stacked system such that when it's done, you have your bottom bucket with a spigot, and you have your top bucket that's going to have your filters in it. So it's a very simple gravity-fed system. You have a lid on top. These 2 buckets nest together, and voila. Your water goes in here around the filters, comes down into the bottom. Spigot is for, getting the water out. So these type of systems, if with 2 filters, if you put in 3 gallons of water into it, it could basically take around 45 minutes to maybe an hour with 2 of these filters to, go through and purify all of it. But if you put in more filters into your system, like 4, you can cut that time in half. So it just depends on, how much you need and how fast you need it. So the basics of this, and I got some pictures that I took earlier when I was doing this, is very simple. We're going to drill holes in the bottom of the top bucket, and simultaneously through the lid that's going to be over the bottom bucket. So these guys are lined up, and I've got a little mark where I lined up the holes. And then what we're going to do is, today, we're just going to put in 2 filters into it, and then I drilled 4 holes into it. Basically, that's for an expansion at a later date if we decide that, maybe it doesn't work as fast as we want, or maybe, we're using the water that filters out at a faster rate. That's really going to be the driver of probably about how many filters you want to put into it, is how fast you use it. But this is really a pretty simple thing. These are 1/2-inch holes here in the bottom, and the spigot was a 5/8 inch hole in the side of the bottom bucket. And they come with their own gaskets, so it's sealed up so there can't be any leakage. And to put this thing together, I'm just going to show you quickly. We've got a couple of different parts. We got the filter itself, and then we have a couple of basically plugs. So what I'm going to do is these plugs come with a gasket, so there's no leakage. And the bottom plug, we're just going to put right through. And you can see, once I get this in here, and these plugs are going to hold the bottom inside. If you look in the inside, you can see where they came through the bottom of the bucket. What I'm going to do is put a gasket over each one. And I know this isn't very good filming here, but basically what I'm going to be doing is tightening the screw down, which this will attach the bottom to the unit here. So the bottom is attached. And then let me just put in the other one real quick here. So then it becomes very easy to put the filter in itself. Okay, the filters, they come sealed in just a cellophane wrap. It's not that big of a deal. You got to be careful with these. They are a form of ceramic, and so you don't want to handle these with greasy hands or anything like that. But the basics of it are pretty simple. The water flows into the porous part of the filter. As it drains down, there's a gasket here to keep it sealed against the bottom of the holding tank where the water you're purifying is in. And then this screws down through the bottom lid so that you're basically ending up with kind of a nipple down underneath. So when I put this guy in, it becomes a pretty simple thing to just attach it and screw it down to the lid. We want it snug, not super tight, because the whole point is you're not trying to break the thing. But what you'll end up with is a filter on the inside. And that, we just do that for both of them. Get my second filter out here. Please don't roll across the counter, thank you. Now we're not going to go into the maintenance and the actual priming and the operation of this today, because it's really, that's kind of a whole different video unto itself. I just kind of wanted to show you the basics of how this is put together. Now if you want to get more in depth in terms of the actual drilling and all that, there's great websites or YouTube channels. I got this from this particular design from a guy called Pilot Patriot, and he had put these things together. I guess he was using it for kind of like a backup water purification system, and he does a lot of camping and things of that nature. So that was kind of where he was coming from. So when we get these guys all tightened in, and again, you tighten them snug, not rock hard, not bolted down, it's hand tight. And you end up with the inside 2 filters, and that is basically the system. So then all we have to do is you can put this is a snap ring type of lid, so I won't press it down super hard right now, but you can press it down super hard and snap it in so this bottom unit is sealed, and then when you need to clean it, you simply come back and unsnap it. The last step that we're going to put in place is, this is a Gamma Seal lid. This is for the top. And the reason we went with the Gamma Seal is because it's kind of a pain to keep snapping this on and off and on and off all the time. And if you're actually using it this multiple times, a Gamma Seal we know is a nice fancy way of saying it's a screw on top. So the top can be put on, you can fill it with water. These are 5-gallon buckets, so you would not fill all the way to the top. You'll put in about 4 gallons at a time, maybe max. You just want to make certain that when you do put the water in, the filters are totally covered. So that's the minimum that you got to put in, is probably at least 3 gallons, but this would operate pretty efficiently at 4 gallons. And the only other thing about this is this is kind of like a last step in the purification process. So the whole focus of what you're trying to do is take out things that you wouldn't normally see in the water. Now, it will do water that has a bit of opacity to it, meaning it's a little cloudy. But what you really want to be doing is using a different kind of filter. If you're using rainwater and it's got stuff in it, or you can definitely see that there's maybe dirt or grit, that will plug these filters up pretty fast. So the point is this is like a last step purification. So all the solids and stuff have been removed. You may be using a sand filter or some other kind of just even using a coffee filter if you were camping, just to take out everything down to pretty much a super fine level. And that would be making these things much more efficient. If you just take muddy water and put it in here, well, it will work for a while, but eventually your filter is going to get plugged on the outside with a lot of stuff. And it's the same thing too. If you took, stagnant water from a pond that had pond scum and things like that in it, it's like, that's going to also kind of plug this guy up. So the whole idea here is you're trying to get clean water, and it's gravity fed, doesn't use any electricity, and it's portable. So we're keeping this. This is for our emergency use. So like if we know we're going to have a problem, we can take some of our longer storage water and we can run it into this. And even if you don't use it all the time, you can also, and we'll cover this in another video later, but what you can do is you can take these filters out, you can clean them up, and you can dry them out, and then you can set them away in storage and use them again. So it's not like, you know, you ripped off the seal and now you got to use it for 3,000 gallons. But when people do buy the Berkey system for their home use, the stainless steel models, they're pretty much using them all the time because it's a, you know, it's a commitment, and usually they have pretty significant water issues with odors and things like that that are in it, and this will take that material out. So, any thoughts?
Is this sponsored?
No. This is not sponsored. This is just you and I trying to figure out an extra way to make certain that, you know, we can keep good, clean water to drink if we have a problem here on the farm.
And we do go out with no power quite often. Snow.
It's getting to be more and more.
And that's our one weakness is no water. We can take care of lots of things without electricity, you know, staying warm and things like that with fireplaces and stuff. But water from a well is hard.
Yeah, so you either got to have a hand pump, which we've been looking at that idea too.
But this is the quickest and easiest way to get started on being ready for an outage.
Yeah, so if you have long-term storage water that, you know, maybe you rotate it out every 30 days or something like that, you know, keeping 30, 40 gallons on hand just to use. This is a good last step to go make certain that when you pull it out of that storage container, you run it through this thing, you've got good, clean drinking water, you don't have any other issues. And this is all food grade, so there shouldn't be any issues with that either. This is not something that I think, you know, in terms of if you're using it, don't leave the water stored in here for a long period of time after it's been filtered, meaning like 3 weeks later, you come back and drink the water after you filtered it. That's probably not a good idea to do. You would need...
Filter it and use it.
Filter it and use it. If you're not using the filter system, you probably want to stop, you know, you clean it out, you know, set the filters up for storage, and then, you know, when you need it, you can come back. So you can see they're real easy to put in, easy to take out. The biggest expense is actually the filter itself. The whole unit was done for under $200 because basically the rest of it was purchasing the buckets, the lids, and the spigot. And that was maybe a total for all of it, like $25.
So a little peace of mind there.
Right.
And easy.
And easy, and we can get, you know, quite a bit of water out of it, filtered for good use. Okay, so anyway, that's just kind of something we wanted to show with you guys this week. And again, you know, got to give credit where credit's due. This is not a design we came up with, and there's lots of guys out there that are do-it-yourself channels that, you know, have kind of pioneered this thing. And so we want to say thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.